Welcome to the Manders Mindset Podcast. Here you'll find both monologue and interviews of entrepreneurs, coaches, healers, and a variety of other people, where your host Amanda Russo will discuss her own mindset and perspective and her guest mindset and perspective on the world around us. Manders and her guests will help explain to you how shifting your mindset will shift your life.
Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of Manders Mindset, where we explore the power of shifting your mindset to shift your life. I'm your host, Amanda Russo, and today I want to share a story that's all about trusting the journey and following those little nudges from the universe. Recently, I had the opportunity to attend Podcast Movement in Washington, D.C., and this event and this experience turned out to be one of the most inspiring experiences of my podcasting journey so far. But here's the thing. I almost didn't go. After attending PodFest back in January, I felt such a strong connection to that event that I wasn't even considering attending Podcast Movement. I loved everything about PodFest. I even got a PodFest tattoo. I'm the first one, in case you didn't know. From the vibe to the connections I made, I figured that was enough. That was it for my podcasting events for the year. Then, a friend of mine, shout out to JR, mentioned something that caught my attention. There was a scholarship available for Podcast Movement, and he happened to tell me about it on the last day of the scholarship being open. Well, I thought to myself, if I apply and I win, then maybe I am meant to be there. I am meant to be there for some reason. It was one of those moments where you feel like the universe is giving you a little nudge and you just go for it. And guess what? I won. And that was my sign, loud and clear, that I needed to be at Podcast Movement. I didn't know why. I didn't know what was going to come from it, but I knew I needed to be there. And now winning the scholarship wasn't just about the financial support, though it helped, but it felt like confirmation to me that what I'm doing in my voice and the work I've done in this past year with Manders Mindset truly matters. So off to DC I went, packed up the car and loaded it, decided I was going to make this a road trip and not fly. And y'all, it took me so fucking long to drive to DC. I probably won't do that again. But I went off to DC with a mix of excitement and curiosity and some nerves. And as soon as I arrived, I felt the energy of the city. And one of the best parts of the experience for me was seeing familiar faces. I ran into several friends and connections that I made at PodFest, and it felt like a reunion to me. There's something so comforting about reconnecting with people who share the same passion. It was like picking up right where we left off. And it really set the tone for this event and for the week for me. I'll never forget one of the first people I saw. Shout out to my girl, Sarah St. John. I saw her in the lobby of the hotel as she was in line to check in. And I didn't even realize it was her right away. But the second I did, I screamed and I ran over to her and I jumped in her arms. Thankfully, she was prepared to catch me, so I didn't fall. But it was where I was meant to be. I felt my people. I felt right at home. It was also really awesome because I got to deepen the connections with people I already formed connections with back in January. And they just got even stronger, which is something I didn't expect, but was really grateful that it happened. I had the opportunity to have a meal multiple times with someone I really admire and respect Gordon, the podcast lawyer, who now I consider a really close friend of mine. And I got to spend so much more one-on-one quality time with my girl P. Now, we have been through a lot of fucking shit together throughout 7 months of friendship, but that's a story for another time. It was so wonderful getting to spend so much one-on-one time with my girl P. I also got to reconnect with so many other people I met back at PodFest back in January. And they really helped just twist my mindset about different things in my personal life, different things in terms of how I approach the podcast, and just all around my whole life. I'm really grateful for being able to reconnect with so many of my old connections and build new connections with some really amazing people. A special shout out to Mr. Whiskey, special shout out to Bruce. These are just two individuals I had the opportunity to meet and form a deeper connection with at Podcast Movement. And I'm just really grateful for both of them, their energies, and getting to experience this event with them. Podcast Movement was hosted at the Gaylord Resort, super fancy resort in Washington, D.C., which is very expensive as well. But the layouts of the rooms and where all of the presentations were very high quality. You could tell just the level. It was not your standard event. That being said, the location that it was held in, there were also many other hotels in the surrounding area. So you weren't forced, I don't even want to use the word forced, but you didn't have to stay at the Gaylord. There were hotels right across the street that you could save $100 a night and stay over there. So you still had the opportunity to attend the high quality, high end event at the Gaylord, whether you stayed at the Gaylord or not. Could it have been held in a different resort, a different place that may have had cheaper rooms? Yes, but it all goes into your perspective on the quality of what you want the event to look like. The sessions at Podcast Movement were very diverse. Whether you're a newbie, a seasoned podcaster, there was something for everyone. And I really liked how almost all of the sessions I attended, the speakers would often ask who they have in the audience to get an idea of who they're speaking to, whether it's the newbies, whether it's the seasoned podcasters, how seasoned they are, to get a general idea. There were sessions that would benefit any type of podcaster, even the podcaster that hasn't released their podcast episode yet. There were sessions that would help you from the ground up. I attended panels on everything from monetization strategies to the latest trends in audio. But what really resonated with me were the sessions on community building and authenticity. I left with pages and pages of ideas and inspiration. One thing that I noticed and was different about Podcast Movement versus PodFest is the breakout sessions that they had were located within one big room, spread in different corners of this big room. Whereas at PodFest, they're located in different rooms. But Podcast Movement had the option where you could have headphones at each of the sessions to hear the speaker. Personally, I loved the headphones option because even at PodFest, there were multiple sessions that I was not able to hear what was being said. And honestly, that was the only thing I didn't like about PodFest when I attended. Because if I'm attending a session, I'm attending it so I can hear what's being said. Because otherwise I would just listen to the recordings and get that information later. but it's information that I am looking to have right in the moment, not information that I'm sitting there, and if I can't hear everything that's being said, it's a waste of my time. Now, I will throw this caveat out there. I have not attended any podcasting events prior to January, so I have nothing to compare it to. I cannot compare this to Podcast Movement 2023, cannot compare PodFest to PodFest 2023. I can only compare them to each other. But the headphones truly made such a difference because regardless of where the sessions are being presented, there is outside or background noise that's inevitable to being in a big conference hall. It's inevitable. I attended another conference and they weren't all together, but without the headphones, you have that excess outside noise. And that was the only thing that I didn't like about PodFest, and a few people that I spoke to didn't like about PodFest either, because it almost made it seem that you did not have a choice but to buy the recordings, because even if you attended the session, you might not hear what's being said. Quite a few people had mixed feelings about Podcast Movement having the sessions in with the main session. Everything was all in one big auditory type room. I will say, I see the pros and the cons of this. As someone who has a very difficult time finding sessions and simply navigating her way around, even if that's inside with a map, I enjoyed having all of these smaller sessions located within one room because I was able to attend every single session I wanted to attend. And by having the headphones, I did not have to worry about hearing what's being said from the session right behind me. A few different people I know mentioned with their ADHD, having these sessions so close to the main area was distracting with all of the other booths that they could walk around to. Personally, for me, I didn't have that issue. I would rather have everything in one general area and be able to find where I'm looking to go than be running around like crazy and missing out on things because I couldn't find it or it was too far away. As a good friend of mine had said to me, who's attended both PodFest and Podcast Movement for multiple years, they are both really amazing events. They are just very different vibes. And that is honestly how I completely feel about both of them. I am really grateful I had the opportunity to attend both of these podcasting events. I will also give another shout out to Buzzsprout because Buzzsprout is who awarded me my PodFest ticket. I happened to win a scholarship to PodFest in January and then a scholarship to Podcast Movement in August. And winning that scholarship was more than just a ticket to an event. It was a reminder to me to keep pushing forward and keep growing and keep sharing my voice with the world. Podcast Movement challenged me to step out of my comfort zone. And I'm so grateful that I took that leap. It was the first road trip I took driving 12 hours by myself. It was the first of so many different things for me. It was my first time going to a podcasting event, knowing that I now know people at this event. It was my first time for so many different things. And as I reflect on the entire experience, I am reminded of the importance of saying yes to yourself and to those opportunities that come our way, even if they weren't part of the original plan. I originally had different things planned for this time, but sometimes the universe nudges us in directions that we don't anticipate, and it's up to us to trust the journey. So what's next for Meander's Mindset? I am so excited to take all the new insights and ideas I have gained and pour them into the podcast. There's so much more to come, and I can't wait to share it with you. I am someone who thrives off of connection and community, and these podcasting events have truly given me so much connection and a strong sense of community, regardless of where I am throughout the world or where any of these people are throughout the world. And I am so grateful for Podcast Movement and Podfest for giving me so many strong and meaningful connections in my life. If you've ever been on the fence about attending a podcasting event like Podfest or Podcast Movement, my advice is to go for it. It's an investment in yourself, your podcast, and your community. And hey, you might be lucky and win a scholarship like I did. Also, I'm going to throw this out there. If finances are a reason you have not attended a podcasting event yet, reach out to me privately. My information is in the show notes. I will personally send you information about scholarships for the next podcasting event when I see them, because these two podcasting events have truly shaped and changed the trajectory of my life. One of the biggest things I loved and appreciated so much about attending Podfest, the first podcasting event I attended, was all of the knowledge and the wisdom and the insights that I obtained that had nothing to do with podcasting and would simply help me improve my personal and my professional life. And that, to me, is priceless. I am so grateful that I have had the opportunity to attend both of these podcasting events, and I highly encourage y'all to attend a growth type conference. Hell, even if you're not a podcaster and you're listening to me right now, I attended another conference after Podcast Movement that really helped me shift internally as well. And they just truly, I believe, help us learn more about ourselves and better ways to show up in our personal and professional lives. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you who listens to Meander's Mindset. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star rating, and share it with anybody you think would benefit from hearing this. In case nobody told you today, I'm proud of you, I'm rooting for you, and you got this. Thanks, guys. Until next time.